Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present Suspense.
Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Miss Virginia Bruce in Night Comes Riding, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spears.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better-tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now a glassful would be very pleasant, as Roma Wines bring you Virginia Bruce in a remarkable tale of Suspense.
It was a Monday, the most ordinary Monday in the world, except that I'd stolen an extra 5 minutes doze after the alarm went off, and I was feeling just a teeny bit guilty about it. Ed always leaves for the office at 9 sharp, so I can't afford to waste a second in the mornings. Well, by the time I had the furnace going, the table laid in the breakfast nook, and the coffee and toast started, it was 7:30. That left me 10 minutes more before Ed would be ready for me to run his bath. 10 precious minutes to myself. I suppose every woman has some little pet vanity of her own. With me, it's my hair. Ed's always trying to make me have it cut. He says long hair is unhygienic, and besides, a woman of my age shouldn't be concerned with appearances. I often wonder what he would say if he knew I spent 10 whole minutes every morning just brushing and combing my hair. Just brushing and combing and admiring myself in the mirror like any schoolgirl. Only this morning I didn't. I was a little upset.
Lily? Lily!
Yes, dear?
Where's my blue serge suit? I can't find it anywhere.
Oh, Ed, I gave it to the cleaner.
Oh, no.
Well, it did need cleaning so badly. You said so yourself.
I said nothing of the kind.
But you did, Ed. You said...
All right. I'll wear the gray.
You'd better come out and start your breakfast. It's late.
Yes. I'll be right up.
Ed?
Yes?
You know, Roger didn't come home last night.
Oh, didn't he?
No, and I'm worried.
Well, I don't see why. Half the time he doesn't get home till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, cream, please.
Yes, dear. But he's never stayed out all night before.
Look, Millie, for 2 years I've provided food and shelter for your nephew so he could go to college in this town, and I've never complained. And please don't say it's because of his old man's money either.
You had a quarrel with him last night, didn't you?
Oh, it wasn't a quarrel. I just told him a few things for his own good, that's all.
Well, it was more than that. I heard you. You fought with him.
I didn't fight with him. There was a little scuffle, maybe.
There was blood on the lapel of your suit, too.
All right, there was. Say, what are you driving at anyway?
Nothing, Ed. I'm just wondering why Roger didn't come home.
Well, don't worry. He'll show up. Well, I gotta be going.
Well, it's only 8:30.
I've got to walk today. I had trouble with the car last night. Say, that reminds me, Millie. What are all those glass jars doing up on the shelf in the garage?
Oh, my preserving jar.
Well, whatever they are, they certainly don't belong in the garage.
But, Ed, I never start with my preserves until the 15th.
Oh, look, Millie, look. Raleighs are sending a mechanic up the first thing this morning to look over the car. I don't want the garage looking like a cannery. Besides, those things are dangerous up there. Suppose they should fall.
All right.
Put them down in the cellar. Why, up there where they are, those things could be the death of somebody.
By the time I'd washed up the breakfast things and fed Bobby's my pet canary, it was 10 o'clock. Suddenly I remembered those wretched preserving jars. I was just starting on them when I got a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye in the shadows behind me. I spun around, my heart pounding away 10 to the dozen, and then I saw it. It was a hand hanging out of the open window of the car. A very still, white hand. Roger's hand. It was cold when I touched it. Roger was dead. I don't know quite what happened after that. I know I was running away from that awful darkness and out into the sunlight of the yard, and I was screaming, I guess. Then I must have fainted. Because the next thing I knew, there was a little crowd of people standing around, and someone was holding me in his arms, and that was Duncan.
It's all right, Mama.
Oh, he's dead. He's dead.
It's all right, Mrs. Anderson. It's all right now.
Who are you? What?
You don't know me, Mrs. Anderson. My name is Duncan Shaw. You fainted.
The next few weeks were like a nightmare. The local police, and then the state authorities, too. Questioning, looking, snooping. They knew he'd died of carbon monoxide poisoning, but there were some wounds, too, on his head, and they couldn't explain them. All this and what happened to poor Roger and Ed being so nervous and irritable. Finally, there was an inquest. I didn't even go to it, but it was all in the papers the next day. You're not eating your breakfast, Ed?
I don't feel hungry.
Oh, all right. Ed?
Yes?
What does an open verdict mean?
Open verdict?
Yes, that's what the coroner's jury said about Roger, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Well, what does it mean?
Well, it just means that they don't know. They don't know how it happened.
You mean whether it was an accident or something else?
Yes.
I don't think it was an accident. Do you, Ed?
I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Who do you think did it?
What do you mean by that?
Just what I said. Who do you think did it?
I don't know. What do you mean? It probably was an accident. Maybe it was suicide. How do I know?
Somebody hit him, Ed.
All right, maybe somebody did. I don't know, and I don't care.
You don't what?
I said I don't know, and I don't know anything about it.
I didn't say anything more. I just watched him as he stormed down the path to the garage. I suppose it was the way I felt about Ed that was the reason for what happened next. I mean, I'd always felt that way about Ed in some ways, I guess, but now it was different and worse. That morning, I was taking a basket of old junk out to the tool shed, and it was heavy, and maybe I wasn't looking where I was going, but as I came around the corner of the house, I ran right into someone who grabbed me by the arm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let go of me.
I'm sorry.
What do you mean by frightening me this way?
I didn't mean to frighten you.
Well, what are you doing around here anyway?
You don't remember me, do you?
No, I certainly do not.
I picked you up that day you fainted. I just came around to offer my condolences.
Oh, well, thank you.
Here, let me help you with that.
Oh, no, please don't bother.
Oh, it's no bother. Got nothing better to do.
Oh.
See, I'm a member of that growing army known as the unemployed.
Oh, I see.
Where do you want this stuff put?
Please, I wish you wouldn't.
Oh. Very well, I'll be going then. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion.
Oh, your foot.
Well, what about it?
Well, when I dropped the basket, I hadn't realized it.
No, dear lady. I'm afraid this wound goes back a little farther than that.
Oh, I am sorry. Please forgive me.
Oh, it's all right.
But really, I feel terrible. A veteran and no job. And here I've been... There must be something I can do to make up for it.
Oh, don't feel that way.
Perhaps, believe me, this isn't charity. Perhaps you'll let me make you some breakfast.
Breakfast? Well,
Well, then, that's settled. Come along. You must be a stranger in these parts.
you might call me that.
What in the world ever brought you to a little out-of-the-way place like Richmond?
Oh, this and that. Anything more you'd like to know?
No. You mustn't think that I... Well, here we are. Just sit down and make yourself comfortable, and I'll have something ready in a jiffy.
I've been rude. I'm sorry. You're terribly nice, Miss Sanderson.
Oh, not at all. Tea or coffee, Mr... You know, I've forgotten your name.
Shaw. Duncan Shaw. And, tea.
You know, Mr. Shaw, I've been thinking, and
No, I won't be offended.
Well, it's just that... my husband's always talking about the state the garden's in, and I never seem to have time to do anything about it myself. And there's a lot of other things, like the mailbox and the fence in the back that's falling apart, and, well,
You're sweet.
Of course, I couldn't pay very much, so if it's going to interfere with any other plans...
No. I don't think it would interfere with any other plans. I don't think it would interfere at all.
That's how it began, just as casually as that. A few weeks ago, I could never have done such a thing. I'd have worried about what Ed would say and how I was going to tell him, or felt guilty and ashamed that I was keeping a secret from him. It didn't make any difference now. I didn't care. Duncan came to work every day after Ed had gone to the office and left before he got home. And it got so I looked forward to his coming with a strange, secret happiness.
I hope I'm not disturbing you, Miss Anderson.
Oh, no, of course not.
I was just going home for the day, and I
Well,
thought
of course, if you just wait a minute. I left my purse upstairs.
Oh, you've already paid me today, Mrs. Anderson.
Oh, yes, I did.
You said you were going to hang some curtains this afternoon. I thought I might be able to help.
Well, that's very kind of you, I'm sure. Will you join me in a cup of tea, sir?
Oh, I wouldn't want to trouble you.
There's no trouble. I've got it all made.
Oh, so it is. You take milk or lemon?
Oh, please.
I'll do it. May I?
Of course, it's just that...
You're not used to being waited on.
Well, now you come to mention it, I suppose I'm not.
Or perhaps you've just forgotten what it feels like.
Perhaps I have.
Sugar?
Yes, please.
There are a lot of other things you've forgotten, aren't there?
Oh, I don't know.
Like poetry, for instance?
Poetry.
You recognize this? Edna St. Vincent Millay?
Where in the world?
You asked me to clean out the attic.
Duncan, give it to me.
There isn't much left to give. Millay or Nick Kenny, it's all the same to the rats, but there's a name on the flyleaf. Mildred West. And part of the sonnet written out in longhand. Do you remember what it was? Mildred West?
Why, no, I don't think I do.
I think you do. I think you know it by heart. Love cannot fill the thickened lung with breath, nor clean the blood, nor set the fractured bone.
Yet many a man is making friends with death, even as I speak, for lack of love alone.
Mildred. You're lovely.
Please.
Your hair. It's like the Princess Griselda that I used to read about when I was a little boy. I used to pretend I was her knight in shining armor, and one day I would come riding up and rescue her from the dark tower. You see, she was a prisoner, too.
Oh, no, Duncan. No.
And all this time, you've been like her, waiting to be rescued, waiting to escape. Haven't you, Mildred? Haven't you?
Oh, yes, Duncan. Yes. Yes, yes. Oh, Duncan, I'm afraid.
Of what? Of being happy?
No, only of how it will end.
Why does it have to end?
It will, and then I'll want to die.
There's somebody at the door.
It must be Ed.
I'll go.
Wait, you don't have to. I've been going to tell him anyway. Now's as good a time.
Tell him.
Millie, where is the...
Oh, Ed, this is Duncan Shaw.
Duncan Shaw?
Yes, he's been doing some work around the place.
Oh, he has he?
I'll be going, Mrs. Anderson.
I'll see you tomorrow, Duncan.
We'll talk about that later.
There's nothing to talk about, Ed.
Isn't there? Well, I don't want him around here.
Why not?
I don't like strangers hanging around here. Haven't there been enough of them already? How do you know that he isn't...
You sound almost as though you had a guilty conscience, Ed.
Guilty conscience? What do you mean? Guilty of what?
I haven't put a name to it, Ed, but I could.
What are you talking about?
Murder.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Virginia Bruce in Night Comes Riding. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Truman Bradley for Roma Wines. For entertaining friends, for everyday pleasure, more Americans select Roma than any other wine. That's because you enjoy an important difference in Roma, an extra dividend of pleasure in fuller bouquet, richer body, and better taste. To bring you superior wines, better tasting wines, Roma selects from California's choicest grapes. Then, with ancient skill and wine-making resources unmatched in America, Roma master vintners guide this grape treasure, unhurriedly, to tempting taste perfection. These choice wines are placed with mellow Roma wines of years before, and from these reserves, the world's greatest reserves of fine wines, Roma later selects for your pleasure. So why not enjoy a Roma California wine tomorrow? Whether your favorite is sherry or port, muscatel or tokay, you'll find any wine by Roma is better tasting wine. That's R-O-M-A, Roma wine. Your best buy in good taste.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Virginia Bruce as Mildred Anderson, Wally Mayer as her husband Ed, and Howard Duff as Duncan Shaw in Night Comes Riding, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
never spoke of it after that. We never spoke of much of anything. I knew he'd hated Roger. I knew he'd fought with him. And I'd accused him to his face of killing him. He didn't even bother to deny it. What was there to talk about? Besides, I was in love. That was part of it, too, I suppose. Part of my trying to escape. Falling in love with a boy years younger than myself. A stranger that I'd only known a few short weeks. I knew I was living in a dream world and that I'd have to wake up someday. But I didn't care.
Will you pass the milk, please, Millie?
It's by your plate.
Oh, yes. Well, I see there was another robbery in town last night. Frank Davis's house. He was wounded, too. They took a shot at him.
That's too bad.
Well, you might show a little interest. That might have been our house, you know. That might have been me that stopped that bullet.
Yes, I suppose it might.
And you wouldn't care much either, would you?
I didn't say that.
Now, look, Millie. There's no use holding this thing against me forever.
Holding what against you?
Listen, I know you didn't tell them how I fought with Roger that night, and I'm grateful. When the police are looking for a suspect, you never can tell what they're liable to pounce on, but now...
It's 8:30. You'd better get started.
All right, Millie. If that's the way you want it. Well, I see your protégé's out there bright and early this morning.
Is he?
What's the catch, Millie? You're not paying him enough to amount to anything.
Maybe he just likes working for an important man like you.
Or maybe he's smitten with the lady of the house, Ha-ha! That'd be a hot one, wouldn't it? Millie's boyfriend. Well, I gotta go.
Morning, Mr. Adams.
Bye. Morning.
Hello, Griselda.
Hello, Duncan.
You're beautiful.
Had your breakfast?
Your hair is beautiful.
I'll fix you something.
No, wait.
Don't you want breakfast?
Mildred, I want to talk to you.
Oh, it's so serious.
Yes, serious.
What is it, Duncan?
I've lied to you, Mildred.
Lied to me?
Yes. In the first place, I'm not a veteran.
Oh, well, what difference does that make?
And this gimpy leg, this limp, I didn't get it in the war. I had it long before, and that's why I wasn't in the war.
Why, Duncan, why should that make any difference?
Listen, you remember the time I told you the fairy story, that first time about the Princess Griselda?
Of course.
I should have told you another story right then.
Does it have a happy ending?
No.
Then I don't want to hear it.
Well, you've got to hear it sooner or later.
Oh, Duncan, please, if it's...
Now, listen. Once upon a time, there was a little boy. He wasn't much different from any other kid born on the wrong side of the tracks. Then, he just happened to be behind the door when the silver spoons were passed out. But he didn't care, and he did have one break. He had an older brother, Mike. Mike was my whole world until he was killed.
Oh, Duncan.
We hadn't been doing anything wrong, just a gang of kids playing cops and robbers with an old warehouse for props, but to him we were fair game. Maybe we did run away, and it was wrong, but we were just kids, scared kids, so we ran. That's when he started shooting. The first shot winged me in the leg. The next one caught Mike in the shoulder and knocked him down.
Who started shooting, Duncan?
Your husband. Mike fell forward on his knees. I can still see him, just a kid on his knees in the dirt. And then the next shot was a bullseye. It hit him right in the middle of the back. I wanted to kill him then, but I knew I didn't have a chance. He was a big slob with a gun in his hand protecting the community, and I was just a kid, but I swore then that someday I'd...
You'd kill him.
Yes.
And that's why you came back.
Yes.
And that's why you came to me and...
No, Mildred. That was something I hadn't planned on. You see, I fell in love with you. That sort of makes a difference.
Killed Roger, too. I know it now.
That's another reason. I couldn't say anything before, but...
Murder?
What's the difference, what you call it?
No difference.
And after a while, we could go away. No one would ever know. We could really be together, really be free.
Oh, free?
But we'd have to plan it that way. Something simple, accidental.
Duncan.
I know. It's horrible to even talk about it, but...
No, Duncan, it can be simple.
You mean you...
Listen, he told me himself this morning. He was reading about the robbery last night. He said it could have been our house. He said it could have been him.
Sure. Shot while protecting his home. An accident, one of those things. Does he still have a gun?
No.
We better do it soon.
Yes. Tonight.
Tonight?
Why not? I'll leave the kitchen door unlocked.
All right. What time?
He's always asleep by 12. Duncan.
Yes?
You're not afraid, are you? Because I'm not. Not anymore.
Afraid? No. Just glad. Because at last I'm going to kill him.
I was quite calm after that. I got supper as usual, as I had for the past 10 years. Ed would be home for supper at 7:30. Ed was always home for supper at 7:30 on Thursday. Only on this Thursday, for the first time in 10 years, Ed was late. 30 agonizing minutes late.
Well, something sure smells good.
You're late. What happened?
I stopped in at Lerner's Hardware. Brought you a little present.
Gun.
It's no water pistol.
What do you want a gun for?
What do you think?
What are you afraid of, Ed?
Who says I'm afraid? Of what these robberies and all these other things...
What other things?
Oh, let's skip it, shall we, Millie? All I say is a man's entitled to a little protection for his home, for his wife. Isn't that right? Well, when do we eat?
I'll dish it right up. Ed.
Yes?
About the gun.
What about it?
Well, where do you want to keep it? I mean, I'll put it away for you somewhere where you'll always...
Oh, no. No. From now on, this gun's my right arm. Anybody starts prowling around this place is in for the shock of his life. Why, this thing will knock a man down at 50 yards, and any closer... Well, what's the matter with you? You look as if you've seen a ghost.
Nothing.
Well, come on, let's eat. I'm starved.
Kept it right next to his plate all through dinner. Finally, after about an hour of listening to the radio, he got up to go to bed, and he took that gun with him. I followed, as I always did, to turn his bed down for him. And as I came into the room, I saw him putting it under his pillow. After that, it seemed hours and hours lying in the dark, watching the luminous hands of the little bedside clock creep on to 11, 11:15, waiting until I was sure he was asleep. Slowly, ever so slowly, I slipped my hand under his pillow, reaching for the gun.
What's the matter?
I think I forgot to lock the kitchen door.
Oh, go to sleep, Millie. I locked it myself.
I looked at the clock. Nearly 11:15. There was no time for anything else now. I slipped out of bed and down the back stairs to the kitchen as quickly and as silently as I could. I was just pushing open the screen door when I felt a hand like a vice close on my arm.
Are you out of your mind?
Oh, Duncan, you've got to get away from here quickly.
Oh, have I?
But he's got a gun. He got it this afternoon. He's got it with him now.
So that's it. I never thought you'd go through with it.
Duncan, listen to me, please. He'll kill you.
Listen to me. I'm doing the killing tonight. Don't think you can save him at the last minute. Nobody can. What do you think I made love to you for all these weeks?
What?
Do you think it was fun playing Iceman to a frumpy housewife?
Oh, Duncan.
You might as well know it. You might as well know all of it. It was me that killed your nephew, too. I thought it was your husband. Now, get out of my way before I kill you, too.
Duncan, listen to me. I don't care. I don't care what's happened. But if you go up there, he'll kill you. And I don't want you to die. Maybe I still love you. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't want you to die. Please.
Let go of me.
Duncan. The blow stunned me and I fell. But only for a few seconds. And then I was scrambling to my feet again and running blindly across the dark kitchen and up the back stairs. There was still time. I could still stop it. Please, let there still be time. Suddenly it was quiet. Deathly quiet. Then the light blazed out of my eyes, and from what seemed a million miles away...
Millie!
I heard someone calling my name.
Millie, I got him. The burglar, I got him. It's all right, Millie. He's dead. Yeah, dead in the mackerel. Look. Well, what do you know? It's your boyfriend, Millie. Your boyfriend, Duncan Shaw.
There's always so much to do in the morning. The furnace and Ed's breakfast and his bath. I can't afford to waste a second. Somehow I just don't have time anymore to brush my hair. It's too bad. Because I've always had lovely hair. Once someone said I had hair like a princess. Like a princess in a fairy tale.
Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines. R-O-M-A. Roma. America's favorite wines. Our star of the evening, Virginia Bruce, will be back with us in just a moment. This is Truman Bradley inviting our new Suspense listeners to discover what our regular listeners already know. That there's an important difference in Roma wines. A difference you enjoy in fuller bouquet, richer body, and better taste. Yes, Roma wines taste better because Roma selects better tasting wines from the world's greatest wine reserves. That's why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. For a tempting taste treat tomorrow, serve Roma California Sherry. Perfect first call for dinner, delicious for entertaining anytime. And now, Virginia Bruce.
Thank you, Truman. I just want to tell our listeners how much I've enjoyed appearing on Suspense. And how much I think they'll enjoy next week's Suspense show, starring Angela Lansbury. Good night, everyone.
Tonight's Suspense story was written by Pamela Wilcox. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Miss Angela Lansbury as star of Suspense. Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. Stay tuned for the thrilling adventures of the FBI in peace and war, following immediately over most of these stations. In the coming weeks, Suspense will present such stars as Hume Cronin, June Havoc, and others. Make it a point to listen each Thursday to Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills.
Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present Suspense.
Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Miss Angela Lansbury in A Thing of Beauty, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Angela Lansbury in a remarkable tale of suspense.
Now, if you will give me your arm.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. I think we shall just miss the storm if we hurry.
A rather somber place, isn't it?
Well, it gives her seclusion, and that's all she's ever asked for since she came here. That and what little spiritual comfort I've been able to give her.
How long ago was that, sir? That she came here, I mean.
Oh, 8 years. Let me see. Oh, no. 9. 9 years ago in May.
But it was long before that she left the stage.
Oh, she was nearly 10 years in an institution, a mental disorder. Though it's not her mind was ever sick or I'm mistaken.
They do say she's a bit on the eccentric side, though.
Oh, you'll be her spiritual advisor yourself soon enough when I've retired. And I want you to meet her without prejudice. And one day I'll tell you what I know, which goodness knows is little enough. And what I have reason to believe, which is somewhat more. It seems we'll just about escape adventure.
She lives completely alone?
Oh, the one servant, that's all.
Oh, Father Benson.
Ah, Suzette. This is my new curate, the Reverend Mrs. Sedley. We're here to see Miss Tremaine.
Well, does she know you are not alone?
My good Suzette, I haven't any idea. But you might have seen out of the rain while you so inform her.
But very well. Come in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you will wait in the study, I will ask if Mademoiselle is able to see you.
What in the world's got into the woman? She knows Miss Tremaine's been seeing me every fortnight at the same time for 9 years.
Oh, there's a picture here. Is it of her?
Probably.
My word, she was a beauty.
Oh, your father could have told you. Yes, she was a legend of 2 continents.
It must have been a very tragic thing to make a woman like that shut herself away. Is it true, sir, that she sees no one but you?
No one. As far as I know, she has never set foot outside this house in all the time she's been here. Nor has she ever had a single visitor beside myself.
But why?
Mademoiselle will see you now, Father. In her parlor, across the hall.
Oh, thank you, Suzette.
Father Benson.
Oh, hello.
Come in.
Thank you.
I do hope you don't mind my receiving you in the dark, but I have a mortal dread of light during a storm.
Oh, not at all, my dear.
You'll find 2 quite comfortable chairs just there by the window, I think.
Oh, thank you. Madeline, this is my new curate, Mr. Sedley.
Oh, yes, Mr. Sedley.
It's a great pleasure to meet the famous beauty, even in the dark.
Yes, I suppose you've heard of my beauty, Mr. Sedley. You know, as you came in, I was looking at this little gold mirror. Engraved on the back are the words, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever."
Ah, Keats.
Yes, Oscar gave it to me.
Oh?
He said it was a magic mirror. When you are very old, Madeline, he said, you will only have to look in it to see yourself as you are now, young and radiant and a joy forever. And I've believed ever since that Oscar was really something of a magician, because you know it's true.
Was that Oscar Wilde, Miss Tremaine?
Yes, dear Oscar, dear dead days. I suppose you've already heard of all the wild tales of my lurid past, Mr. Sedley?
Oh, no, Miss Tremaine, I assure you
I don't believe that Father Benson has ever caught me in a very reminiscing mood, have you, Father? But since you will one day be vicar here, Mr. Sedley, perhaps it would be better if you heard the truth from me.
Miss Tremaine, don't think
Oh, the truth is wild enough. It all began, I suppose, when John Gaylord gave me my first speaking part. That was, too far ago to tell. My hair was a little darker. My voice was not quite as rich as it is now. A trifle more silvery, perhaps. John and Nell gathered for the leads, and my part, well, it was one of those obscure little parts that no one pays any attention to until some obscure little actress comes along and makes the start of a career with it. It was then that I first experienced what will always be to me in all the range of human feelings, the supreme exaltation when you hear the full frenzied applause of an audience for you alone. Yes?
Madeline, may I see you?
Oh, come in, John.
You are marvelous, simply marvelous.
Thank you, John.
Such a little fool.
A fool?
I've told you to play the part down, but it's getting worse and worse. Tonight she's absolutely furious. She's going to make trouble for you, Madeline.
Trouble? What kind of trouble?
Oh, you don't know Nellie Garrett.
But I know my audience, don't I?
Oh, Madeline, you're so young and foolish and so beautiful.
Why, thank you, John.
So terribly beautiful.
Oh, John, you're leading up to it again, aren't you?
Oh, Madeline, this play isn't going to last forever. Even you can't keep it alive much longer. Mighty, why don't we make plans together now? We could have our own company.
As the great John Gaylord and Mrs. Gaylord?
No, of course not. Why, in a couple of years, you'll be as famous in your own right as Nell Garrett herself.
Perhaps I don't want to wait a couple of years. Besides, John, I don't love you.
Oh, well, do you love anyone?
No, but when I marry, it will be an up-and-coming young member of Parliament like you.
Oh. You're in for it now, Madeline.
Right away. So there you are, my son.
Now, go easy, Miss Garrett. She's meant no harm.
No harm indeed. She has merely ruined my entire last act curtain for 29 consecutive performances, hoisting her skirts clear above the ankle, ogling the stalls like a music hall Gretchen.
It's only because it's that kind of a part.
Oh, is it indeed? Well, as long as I play the leads in this company, I will not have my best speech in the whole play utterly ruined by rowdy applause for the gutter antics of a half-baked ingenue.
Oh, Nell, please, you're making a fool of yourself.
And while we're on the subject, Mr. Gaylord, there are a few points I should like to discuss with you. When you help Miss Tremaine down from the swing in the second act, there's no need for you to keep your arm around her during the entire remainder of the scene. I'll admit that she appears ready to swoon at any moment. But one peep show performance is quite enough for an evening in Drury Lane.
Well, really, Miss Garrett, if you can no longer hold either your audiences or your lovers...
You cheat!
I'll kill you for that, Nell Garrett. If I die for it, I'll kill you. I left the theater and walked aimlessly out into the night, my eyes blinded with tears. Young, yes, foolish as I was, I believed my poor little heart was truly broken. For I knew that Nell Garrett could ruin me with every theater manager in London, and I knew she would. How long I wandered through those misty streets, or where, or even what I did, I shall never know. But just as dawn was breaking, I found myself, by some odd twist of fate, passing by the lodgings of John Gaylord. On a sudden impulse, I climbed the steps to his door.
Yes? Madeline.
Hello, John.
My darling, did anyone see you?
See me?
Come in. Where have you been?
Oh, just walking.
Good Lord. Alone?
Yes, why?
Don't you know?
Yes, John, I'm afraid I do. My career...
Your career? Oh, my poor child.
John, what is it?
Don't you know that Nell Garrett's been found dead with a knife in her back?
Dead?
Murdered.
Oh, John.
The police have been looking all over London for you. I've been expecting them here every moment.
For me?
Of course, for you.
But why?
Madeline, last night you threatened to kill her in front of a dozen witnesses. Why wouldn't they be looking for you? Now, Madeline, listen to me now. Where did you go? What did you do? Didn't anyone see you? Didn't you talk to anyone?
No.
But you've got to tell them something.
What can I tell them?
Because if you don't, they'll... Yes, they'll hang you, Madeline.
Oh, no.
Please, Madeline, you've got to think. Try to remember something.
Oh, I'm so alone. If only I had a friend.
I have got a friend, Madeline. I'm your friend, believe me.
Someone who loved me enough to at least say they were with me. Oh.
Who is it?
Inspector Kelly, Scotland Yard.
Madeline, in there, quickly, the bedroom.
John.
Don't worry, I'll tell him something. Hurry. I'm coming.
I'm sorry to rouse you at this early hour,
Quite all right, sir. Come in.
You are Mr. John Gaylord?
Yes?
Of the Queen's Players Company, Drury Lane?
Yes.
Can you tell me, Mr. Gaylord, anything of the whereabouts of Miss Madeline Tremaine?
Madeline Tremaine?
Yes.
Why,
Did you call me, darling? Oh, excuse me.
Who is this lady, Mr. Gaylord?
Well, who are you?
I'm from the police, madam.
Police?
There's been a murder. Miss Nell Garrett of the Queen's Company was found stabbed in her home last night.
Nell Garrett?
Yes. You know her?
Why, of course this is...
I'm afraid, madam, that I shall have to ask you for your name.
I am Madeline Tremaine. I'm so sorry that you find me somewhat in disarray.
Miss Tremaine, I'm afraid I shall also have to ask you to account for your whereabouts after you left the theater last night.
Very well. Mr. Gaylord can account for my whereabouts.
Well, Mr. Gaylord?
Why,
You see, Inspector, it's rather a delicate matter. Because since I left the theater last night, I've been here.
Is that true, Mr. Gaylord?
Yes, quite true, Inspector.
I see.
Is that satisfactory, Inspector?
Yes. Well, I don't think I need trouble you any further for the moment.
I quite understand your position, Inspector. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
Yes. Well, good day to you.
Good day, sir. Oh, Madeline.
Yes, John?
Madeline, you shouldn't have done it. Why, they'll have the scandal all over every newspaper in the city.
A scandal is better than a hanging, isn't it?
Oh, but there must have been some other way. Now they'll tear you to shreds. They won't have you in anything better than a music hall for the rest of your life.
John, there won't be any scandal
If what?
John, it wasn't just my tiff with Nell Garrett that sent me wandering through the fog last night. I was thinking about something much more serious.
What do you mean?
I was thinking about what you said.
What I had said?
John, perhaps I don't really love you yet, but there's no one else. And you're the finest, kindest man I've ever known.
Madeline.
And now perhaps you saved my life.
Oh, Madeline, I love you more than anything else in this world. But I wouldn't have you marry me for gratitude.
I wouldn't marry any man for gratitude.
Madeline, if I were to tell you that I wasn't here last night either, that I couldn't explain my whereabouts.
Oh, I see.
Would you still marry me?
Yes, John. I will marry you.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Angela Lansbury in A Thing of Beauty. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. Between the acts of Suspense, this is Truman Bradley for Roma Wines. Whether you serve wine infrequently or often, enjoy the better taste of Roma Wines. Yes, Roma Wines give you more pleasure with every sip, a better 3 ways, in fuller bouquet, richer body, and better taste. To bring you better tasting wine, Roma begins with California's choicest grapes. Then, with ancient skill and wine-making resources unmatched in America, Roma master vintners guide this grape treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. These choice wines are then placed with mellow Roma wines of years before, and from these reserves, the world's greatest reserves of fine wines, Roma later selects for your pleasure. This holiday weekend, enjoy rich Roma California port or Tokay. Serve after dinner, or in a tall glass with ice and soda as a refreshing warm weather cooler. Served any way, Roma tastes better. That's why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. That's R-O-M-A, Roma, your best buy in good taste. And now Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Miss Angela Lansbury, who as Madeline Tremaine resumes the recital of her brilliant and stormy career. It is a tale told to 2 clergymen in a darkened room. A tale well calculated to keep them and you in suspense.
Shall I continue, gentlemen?
Oh, yes. Please do, Miss Tremaine. It's most absorbing. Indeed it is.
Really? I hope you don't mind the lights turned off. It's the storm. I suppose I am a sort of an elemental creature, but I always love to sit here and have it dark when it's stormy outside.
Not at all.
Well, then, our marriage was a very happy one. Perhaps not entirely in the high tradition of grand passion, but a thoroughly comfortable, civilized relationship. Until something happened which is so often a tragic feature of wedded life between 2 stage personalities.
You see, for the first 2 seasons, John and I always played together. And then managers began to ask for me alone. What could I do? I was young, just reaching the peak of my career. John was past his prime and popularity, and so at last he had no longer even tried to have a career, but lived along on false hopes and idle dreams and tiresome reminiscences, and, well, took up those little hobbies to pass the time away. Oh, a little stout. It was very difficult for both of us. And then, for me, came the time and opportunity that every actress dreams of. Oh, Mademoiselle. Hello, Suzette. I've got the most wonderful news. The most wonderful, wonderful news.
That you, Madeline?
I'll tell you all about it later. Oui, Mademoiselle. Yes, John?
Come in here a moment. I want to show you something.
Where are you?
I'm in here in the den.
Oh, good heavens. Now what?
I thought I'd keep it a secret until I had my first exhibit, but I couldn't wait. I've taken up etching.
Etching?
Yes. Look, here.
What's that?
You?
What?
Well, it's only the copper plate, of course. You see, the whole principle of etching is... Oh, Madeline, look out.
What's the matter?
You almost knocked over that vat of nitric acid. One drop of that on your beautiful white skin would burn a hole right through you.
Well, if you must have that sort of thing around, darling.
Well, of course, that's the whole thing. You see, the sketch simply scrapes the wax off the copper plate. Then you drop it in the acid.
Well, that's very interesting, darling, but...
Oh, yes. Well, tell me, what happened in town? Anything?
Anything. Everything.
Plans, eh? Anyone ask for me?
Oh, yes, everyone asked for you, John. I told them you were well.
No, I mean, well, I thought there might be a couple of decent plays for a change. I might consider something.
Yes. John, darling, how are you on Romeo?
Romeo?
Yes. You see, Maxwell has finally asked me to do a Shakespeare repertory. And high time, by the way. I'm starting in Romeo and Juliet, and I need...
Madeline, why didn't you tell me Romeo? We'll be a sensation. It's just the very thing I need.
I know.
You.
Now,
oh,
John...
I can do it all right. It'll take off a little weight, brush up in the lines. I've done it before, you know.
I know. John, darling.
Madeline. Oh, you're the dearest wife and the best friend a man ever had. You know, lately I've actually wondered sometimes if you might not think I wasn't... Oh, my darling.
I know, John, but don't count too heavily on this. I'm not quite sure yet that things will work out.
Work out? How else can they work out but perfectly?
Very well. I'd like to begin reading here at home first, tomorrow evening. Now, shall we take it again from yet I should kill thee with much cherishing?
Of course.
No. Yet I should kill thee with too much cherishing. Good night, good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
Sleep dwell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace, so sweet to rest.
Yes, but you see, on those last, you should really already be moving off the stage. You don't want to make too much of them. After all, the scene really ends when Juliet leaves the balcony.
I know, but you can't just throw them away, Madeline, dear. Those are very famous lines.
Yes, but, John, we mustn't think so much in terms of lines as of performance.
Pardon, mademoiselle.
Yes, Suzette.
Monsieur Alexandre Duncan is here.
Oh, yes, show him in.
Oui, mademoiselle.
Alan Duncan, what's that young ham coming around for?
Well, John, I've been meaning to tell
Hello,
you.
Madeline.
Hello, Alex. You know my husband?
Oh, why, yes, of course. How'd you do, Mr. Tremaine?
The name is Gaylord.
Oh, yes. Of course, Mr. Gaylord. Well, I say, aren't I the luckiest fellow in the world?
Are you?
John?
You'll be playing Romeo opposite Madeline Tremaine. Oh, Madeline, when I got your cable, I could hardly believe it. I jumped on the boat without even packing a bag. Is something wrong?
John, I've been trying to tell you, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
If I've interrupted something.
No, it's all right, Alec. John, please don't make a scene. I had to have someone to rehearse with me until Alec got here, and I knew you wouldn't be the slightest help to me if you thought... Oh,
Madeline.
John, why must you make an issue of this?
I've always known you're a thoughtless, selfish woman. But I never would have believed that you could do anything quite so vile.
How dare you speak to me that way? You didn't really think that a man with a 40-inch waistline and a double chin could ever play Romeo, did you?
Madeline, I say...
Get out of here. Get out. Get out. Get out.
I say...
Oh, I have to go and apologize, I suppose. John, I want to talk to you. John?
Madeline, be careful of that acid.
Acid? Oh, John, I'm terribly sorry for what I said. It was beastly of me, and
It's quite all right, Madeline.
Oh, John, I knew you'd see it that way when you came to think.
Yes, because you see, I am going to play Romeo.
Oh, really, John? Must we go through it all over again?
Madeline, I've forgiven and forgotten a lot of things since we've been married. I pushed you out in front. I've given you the spotlight. And watched your regard for me become somewhat less than for your servant, if somewhat more than for your dog.
John, now look here.
But this, if only for my self-respect, I will not allow to dangle before my eyes the thing that I wanted most in all the world, except your beauty, that I gave it up for. The thing I've been wanting so much I didn't dare admit it to myself. And then to have you snatch it from me. No, Madeline, no. Waistlines and double chins can be concealed, but a mean spirit, never. This one thing you can do for me, and you will.
John, really, you're being
You see, I've always known that you married me to save your career and to keep my mouth shut. But there's one thing you haven't known. Where I was the night Nell Garrett was murdered.
Where were you?
I was at Nell Garrett's home.
Well, that explains quite a number of things, doesn't it, John?
Madeline, where did you get that gun?
I always thought someday I might need one. Don't come near me, John. Very well, John, I warned you.
Oh, you monster. You beautiful, terrible monster.
To the floor, he held the bowl of acid in my face. It was a frightful thing. Of course, it was self-defense. And I was never even brought to trial, particularly when I told that it was he who killed poor Nell Garrett. But I suffered a complete nervous collapse. I suppose I never really recovered. And yet Providence always seems kind to leave something to be thankful for, even in the worst of tragedies. Because, you know, not a single drop of acid ever touched me. I suppose if it had, I should be horribly disfigured to this day. Well, have I bored you, Mr. Sedley?
Oh, no, Mr. Tremaine. Goodness gracious. Well, Madeline, the storm is almost over. I think we'd best push on.
Must you? Well, excuse me for just a moment.
Oh, of course, Nadia. Oh, my word. The poor woman. Yes. I say, look here. What is it? This mirror. It's not a mirror at all. It has a picture pasted in it. The photograph that's in the study. Oh, poor Nadia.
Father Denton, Mademoiselle would like to speak with you a moment before you go.
Oh, yes, of course. Very well. I'll only be a moment, Sedley.
This way, Father.
Thank you.
Ah, Father.
Well, Madeline?
You may turn the lights on, Suzette, as you go.
Mademoiselle.
So that is your young curate, Father Benson.
Yes. Do you like him?
He seems like a dear boy, but...
But what, Madeline?
I'm afraid I can't see him again.
Madeline, why?
Well, I don't want to hurt his feelings, but it would not be the same. You have been my only true friend in all these years. And when you are gone, I would rather be alone again.
I'm sorry, sir. But Mrs. Stokes is outside. Her little girl is dying. And when she heard you were here, she...
Go away.
Madeline. What?
Go away. Go both.
Come, sir.
Away. Go away.
Good Lord. Poor Madeline. It was too much for her. Yes. Oh, she killed them both, of course. The woman and her husband. I think I always must have known it. All these years, she's lived a lie. Yes, but that's not the lie that's hurt her. It was the acid. Acid?
Didn't you see her face, sir?
You forget, my boy, that I am blind.
She has no face.
Suspense, presented by Roma Wines. R-O-M-A, Roma, America's favorite wines. Before we hear again from Angela Lansbury, star of tonight's suspense play, this is Truman Bradley reminding you that in Roma Wine, you enjoy an important difference, an extra dividend of pleasure in fuller bouquet, richer body, and better taste. Yes, Roma wines taste better because Roma selects better tasting wines from the world's greatest wine reserves. Discover for yourself why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. This weekend, serve Roma California Burgundy or Sauterne with dinner. You'll agree that Roma is a premium wine in everything but price. And now, Angela Lansbury.
Hello. I've had many a thrill myself listening to Suspense, and I hope we were able to send a few chills up and down your spines tonight. I'm sure next week's program will, when Roma Wines bring you Hume Cronin in Make Mad the Guilty. It's a real thriller, so don't miss it. Good night.
Angela Lansbury appeared through arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of High Barbaree, starring Van Johnson and June Allison. Tonight's suspense play was written by Robert Richards from an original story by Elizabeth Heaston Heisch. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Mr. Hume Cronin as star of Suspense. Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. In the coming weeks, Suspense will present such stars as June Havoc, Vincent Price, Marcia Hunt, and others. Make it a point to listen each Thursday to Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills.
A famous name presents a great experience in taste luxury. C-R-E-S-T-A? B-L-A-N-C-A. Cresta Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Yes, for the most discriminating, Cresta Blanca offers two rare California sherries, Dry Watch and Triple Cream. Compare Cresta Blanca Dry Watch and Triple Cream with the world's finest sherries, regardless of price. You'll find Cresta Blanca Dry Watch and Triple Cream unequaled in America, unsurpassed anywhere. Shenley's Cresta Blanca Wine Company, Livermore, California.
Listen to Suspense next week, same time, same station. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Yes, Roma wines taste better. Better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present Suspense.
Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Mr. Hume Cronin in Make Mad the Guilty, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines. Those better tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine in the world. And tonight, Roma has great news for you. Big money-saving news that will let you serve Roma wine more often without increasing your budget for friendly entertaining, for delightful everyday dining. Now, Roma Wines bring you Hume Cronin in a remarkable tale of suspense.
Bert.
Yes, my dear.
Well, have you found anything?
I'm looking, my dear.
On the theatrical page, I suppose.
Of course, my dear.
Looking. You've been doing that kind of looking for 6 months. Give me that paper. Bet I'll find you a job in about 6 minutes.
Yes, my dear. It is true that theatrical season, particularly in San Francisco, particularly for Shakespearean actors, was inclined to be sluggish. And it is true that I had never had the great leading roles. Hamlet, Othello, Lear. Although my success in supporting parts amongst amateur groups had been little short of dazzling. It is also true that these successes were of some 15 seasons past. Still, the talent of your true artist is not to be thwarted or denied. But this was a matter which I had never properly succeeded in demonstrating to my wife, Elizabeth. Until at last, perforce, I was persuaded that the poor creature's life was dominated by only the most mercenary considerations.
Face it, little man, you were washed up as an actor before you started. You've just been looking in the wrong part of this paper.
Merciful heavens, desist! Have I not, in deference to your penurious concern, found you a boarder? Young Longstreet?
Him.
A sublime specimen of lusty manhood.
Don't try to change the subject.
Yes, my dear.
Oh, hey, here's something. Listen to this.
Yes, my dear.
A man with personality, poise, presence, to appear before the public, must be able to dress and act the part of impeccable good taste. What do you think of that?
Why, sounds most promising.
All right, little man, the job is practically yours.
What is the nature of the position?
Floor walker at Burdock's department store.
Floor walker? My dear, that's impossible.
Listen, I'm through supporting you as of today, understand?
Yes, my dear, but then...
And you'll take the job and like it.
Yes, my dear. With deep misgivings, I accepted the position. Nevertheless, I carried my role with dignity, undismayed by the tittering clerks who found in my wing collar a curious novelty. Months passed. Uncomplainingly, I bore the yoke of my disgrace. But the strain of long hours began to tax my strength. One day I was feeling particularly unwell. I left the store early and picked up my car in the parking lot. My only thought was to reach the haven of our modest residence on the opposite side of San Francisco Bay, but even driving was an effort. I was faint by the time I reached the checking station on the approach to the Golden Gate Bridge.
Hi, Mr. Matthews. Hey, you're early today. Hey, what's the matter? You look
It's my head again. Probably migraine.
Oh, here's your change. You know, you ought to take better care of yourself, Mr. Matthews. Now, if I was
Yes,
you...
I'll be all right.
That's the thing, Mr. Matthews. Now, they say if you
As I drove slowly across the great high span of the bridge and on through the Marin County hills, I knew, by some sixth sense perhaps, that this would be the day. The discovery. Elizabeth, my wife, and our boarder, young Longstreet. A broad-shouldered, athletic nitwit. A swimming beach idol. I was returning early, you understand, and unexpectedly. Cautiously, I avoided the flagstone walk. On the soft lawn, my footsteps were noiseless. Quietly, I crossed the porch. I threw open the door. Sure enough, suitcases packed for flight stood ready on the floor.
Bert, you...
Now, Mr. Matthews,
shame. Oh, despair.
Oh, nuts. Don't look so shocked. What did you expect?
This is my burden of grief, my cross to bear. Oh, shame, where is thy blush?
Come down off your high horse, Bert. You wanted to get rid of me, didn't you? Well, I'm leaving. If you don't like it, you know what you can do.
In silence, I have suffered your petty deceptions, your taunts, your gross vulgarities. But now, at long last, the worm turns.
Bert, put down that gun.
Hey, hold on a minute, Mr. Matthews.
My heart has turned to stone.
Bert, you're ridiculous. Don't make me laugh.
Ridiculous? On the contrary, my dear wife, I am, for the first time in 15 years, a man.
Now, listen, Mr. Matthews.
Look at him. Always the tragic actor, the great tragedian. You're positively silly with that revolver trembling in your hand. Give it to me.
Keep your distance. I warn you.
Now, look here, Mr. Matthews. Betty and I are
going... Don't worry, handsome. The little man won't shoot. I know him too well. Now, give me that gun.
I warned you.
I said give me that gun.
Oh, that you had 40,000 lives. One is too poor, too weak for my revenge.
Hit him, handsome. Well, we're on our way. Bring the suitcases, handsome.
Shall I hit him again, Betty?
Oh, the little man won't bother us anymore.
Oh, just one. For luck, huh?
Suit yourself.
Yeah. To remember me. Bye.
No. Be seeing you, little man.
Wait.
So long, Matthews. Don't take any wooden nickels, huh?
Elizabeth, wait.
What for? We've got places to go.
Please, Elizabeth. I am the vanquished. It is I who must go. Pride compels it. I shall go far away. Disappear, vanish from your life forever.
He's nuts.
Quiet. What's this you're trying to say, Bert? You're offering to disappear? Vanish, scrap?
Precisely.
Put down the suitcases, Hanson. The little man has something up his sleeve.
Sit on the floor, worm. And remember, we haven't got all day to talk.
Please understand, dear wife. In my disappearance, in my seeming death, if you will, there are certain advantages to be derived for all concerned.
I'm listening.
My life insurance policy, for instance. $20,000. Not an inconsiderable sum.
Say, I'd forgotten about that.
Yes, but softly, dear wife, softly, let me finish. I was thinking rather of other advantages you would derive. My sudden death, presumptive, of course, would give you freedom to marry your healthy milkweed, this handsome nonentity.
Hey, watch yourself, Matthews. I don't like that stuff.
My deepest apologies, handsome. Now, Elizabeth, is the subject of the insurance. Even in my far-off oblivion, I'll have need of money. I thought perhaps you would collect the money and...
And what?
Forward it to me.
Oh, so that's it. You're not the fool I thought you were.
There are mutual advantages, as I have indicated. I would have the $20,000, a trifling reward for my sacrifice. You would have a well-furnished home and handsome.
Maybe you've got something. Let me think it over.
I don't get it at all.
You will, handsome, you will. Elizabeth agreed, as I knew she would. She was, in fact, delighted. Longstreet gave us brief pause, but in the end, my charming wife persuaded him. Due to early training in the theater, the strategy of my demise was masterful. After 3 days' rehearsal with my two accomplices, I drove to the checking station of the Golden Gate Bridge. I was careful to enter the gate manned by my acquaintance.
How you feeling today, Mr. Matthews?
I protest, sir, with emphatic emphasis.
I don't get you.
This toll levy upon the use of a public thoroughfare, by my conscience, it's unsocial, immoral, a downright swindle.
Hey, what's got into you? Come on, pay your fare.
I know you not, magpie.
Huh?
Are you carrion?
Who, me?
Are you fowl, flesh, or fish? Here, vulture, your pound of flesh.
Hey, look, Mr. Matthews. Hey, you better see a doctor.
Doctor, indeed. But the fellow would remember me. I drove slowly, watching in the rearview mirror. Near the center of the great bridge, high above the foaming sea, Longstreet and Elizabeth pulled in behind me. A break came in the traffic. I signaled Longstreet. He pulled his car alongside mine. Quickly, I leaped to his car, leaving mine abandoned at the very center of the bridge. The abandoned car, the suicide note I'd left on the seat, would bear mute testimony to my tragic fate. And by my conscience, the word of the fellow at the checking station would tip the scales. There remained but to vanish from the eyes of all who'd known me, and my desperate deed was done. Elizabeth and Longstreet drove me to Sacramento. I boarded the train for Mexico. The frail, meek little floor walker was no more. I was dead. Gone. Kaput. Presumptive death, indeed. In truth, I was reborn. And on some not too distant tomorrow, I would return, and the lives of Elizabeth and Handsome would be forfeit.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Hume Cronin in Make Mad the Guilty. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Truman Bradley for Roma Wines. There's a big reason why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wines. It's because Roma gives you an extra pleasure dividend in fuller bouquet, richer body, and better taste. And Roma gives you still another extra dividend. Now you can buy Roma wine at handsome savings. Now you can enjoy the delicious taste luxury of your favorite Roma wines and get extra change from a single dollar bill. Yes, you can now save up to 20% on finer tasting Roma wines. Take advantage of these big Roma savings. Buy Roma by the case. Enjoy delicious Roma wine more often with meals or when you entertain, and save money on every bottle. Ask for Roma, R-O-M-A, Roma wines, for extra good taste and extra cash savings.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Hume Cronin in Make Mad the Guilty, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Yes, the frail and meek little floor walker was no more. In Mexico, a new man wore my shoes. I became a man of purpose and daring. Through the art of makeup and disguise, I gave myself a villainous and frightful appearance, corresponding to my new character. I returned boldly to San Francisco with no fear of recognition. Thus was I privileged to read in the local papers of my own suicide and later of my wife's marriage to young Longstreet. Weeks passed. I learned Elizabeth had received the insurance money. I was well aware, of course, that she had no intention of giving me any part of it. The moment of final settlement had arrived. Late at night, as befits one returning from the grave, I rang the bell at the cottage I once called home.
Oh!
It is I, your lately deceased husband.
Bert, you handsome.
May the dead enter with the quick? Permit me to force my entry.
Handsome.
On my word, you're frightened.
Oh, that ridiculous makeup you have on. Why do you have to go around like a scarecrow frightening people?
Hey, what goes on here?
Hurry, Bert's here.
Ah, handsome. In nightshirt and armed with a kitchen knife. An heroic figure, to be sure.
Matthews. Gosh, your face.
The face of Lazarus, risen from the dead, transformed by the chemistry of death.
Don't be funny, Bert. What do you want?
The insurance money. $20,000. Are you surprised?
Oh, you hadn't ought to come back, Matthews.
A bargain is a bargain.
Here's all the money I have in the house. Take it. Now, will you go?
May I repeat, a bargain is a bargain.
Don't stand there, stupid. What are you waiting for?
Well, what do you want me to do, Betty? Shall I...
The knife gleams in the hand of the shirt-tail killer.
Get him, handsome.
Now, Matthews, I mean,
You've observed this automatic in my hand. Also observe as I remove the safety catch. I see your face grows pale.
Now, wait a minute, Bert. What do you want?
Dear me, hadn't I made that clear? I thought I had. I want my $20,000.
Now, listen, Matthews, take it easy. We only collected it yesterday.
Precisely. Hence my timely arrival this evening. Well?
Bert, I can't give it to you. Tonight, I haven't got it.
You forget, my dear, that I have lived with you in apparent connubial bliss for nearly 15 years. I know your habits all too well. I would venture to say that not only have you the money in cash, but that I know where you've hidden it.
Oh, no. I know she didn't do that.
No? And what is this?
Oh, yes, this. Why,
I could have told you that she wasn't to be trusted. Dear me, you have so much to learn, handsome. And so little time to learn.
No, Matthews, wait.
Bert! Bert, you killed him!
Not I, dear wife. I, as you remember, have no existence. I am dead. But you...
Bert!
Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow. Would I could stay to see you explain this whole thing to the police when it be morrow? Perhaps you see it now, eh? Perhaps now you fully understand the sweep and majesty and genius of it. For you must know I had planned it. Yes, planned it every step of the way from the day I introduced Elizabeth to Longstreet until the poor wretch was found hovering over his corpse. Had ever a man played and conceived so magnificent a role, and in no tawdry theater for the make-believe, but in the vast arena of life itself, there was but one thing lacking. That one ingredient so essential to the full savoring by the artist of his creative genius. An audience. And even that I had foreseen. I had my audience ready-made. Elizabeth. Elizabeth should be my audience. Her frantic protestations of innocence, Her unbelieved cries and lamentations that the ingenuity of my plot would be meat and drink and the very breath of life to me. By a slight alteration of my appearance, I was able to attend her trial. Like a spectator at my own play, I could not have directed the performance better myself.
Then this remarkable woman, with the murder weapon still figuratively reeking in her hand, has the temerity to tell this court and this jury that the crime was committed by a former husband who conveniently rose from the dead and then disappeared once more into limbo. No, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. She is guilty. And the state asks that you find her guilty, with full knowledge and consent to the penalty with which that guilt entails. The penalty of death.
No, he's alive.
Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have.
I'll find you, the defendant, Elizabeth Longstreet, guilty or not guilty.
Guilty.
Dispatch this wire, please.
All right. This is Elizabeth Longstreet, death row. Oh.
You can deliver it, can you not?
Oh, sure. You have a rendezvous with death. From the depths of experience, can assure you he is by no means an unfriendly companion.
Unfriendly?
Oh, unfriendly companion. Heartfelt sympathy, courage. 39 words. Let's see, that'll be 78 cents out of $1. Thank you. Really is sad when you come to think of it. I guess you were a friend of hers, huh?
In a sense, to be sure. Yes, in a sense.
Oh, wait a minute. You didn't sign it.
Just sign it, Little Ma'am. The next day, I eagerly scanned the papers for the outburst that this sensational communication must certainly cause. But there was nothing. So I sent a letter, something a little more direct. I scanned the press anew. But still no sign. No single word to tell me how she had received it. What was it? A conspiracy of silence? I was like a player performing to a cold and empty house. Clearly, some stronger medicine was needed.
Yes, sir?
Ah, lilies. The symbol of purity and death.
They are lovely, aren't they? Fresh cut this morning,
Sweet
too.
poetry of flowers. A most delicate, yet firm reminder of my unwavering concern.
Do you wish to make a purchase, sir, or...
decidedly. Give me all you have. I wish them sent by special messenger. The season is propitious.
Yes, sir. Where to, sir?
To Mrs. Elizabeth Longstreet, Tehachapi Prison, the death house.
Mrs. Elizabeth?
And would you mind writing a card? As you can see, my right hand has suffered a slight injury.
Very well, sir. What do you wish me to write?
Just say, from the little man who wasn't there. And sign it, Bert. My own name, you see. That surely would bring results. But no, nothing. Once again, nothing. I saw it now. She was playing with me, deliberately playing with me, concealing my communications from her jailers. And my time was running out. The execution was within the week. But I would move her. I'd move her in such wise as she would drown the stage with tears and cleave the general ear with horrid speech, make mad the guilty.
Okay, next.
It's my understanding that the state law requires the presence of witnesses to a prison execution. I therefore request...
Okay, who do you want to see go?
Mrs. Elizabeth Longstreet.
Let me see. That's Friday morning. What's your name?
Bertram Mason.
Let me see some identification. Driver license, anything you got.
Identification?
Yeah, anything at all.
Well, you see, I'm
sorry, Bud. We got to know who we invite to these parties some other time.
Hold on, sir. I demand
I said some other time. Now beat it. You hear me?
She was slipping from my grasp, don't you see? The curtain was already beginning to descend. And still there was no audience to hear my curtain lines. That night I paced the streets in a torment of indecision. Then, as dawn was breaking, I realized what I must do. A drastic, desperate measure. But I must take it. The execution was the following morning, and at the earliest moment, I presented myself at the prison gate.
Yeah? What can I do for you?
It's imperative, absolutely imperative, that I be present at the execution of Elizabeth Longstreet.
Oh, I'm sorry, mister.
Now, wait. You don't understand.
Can't be done. No, if you was a relative, say...
That's it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I am. I am related.
Yeah? Well, that might be different. How are you related to her?
I am her husband.
Her husband? Oh, now don't try to get funny, mister. It just so happens she murdered her husband.
No, not him. Her former husband. The man whose name was mentioned so often at the trial. They thought I was dead, but I'm not. I'm Bert Matthews.
Oh, a crackpot. Save it for a soapbox, brother.
No, now, wait. I can prove it. She will recognize
Sure, I know. Now, run along.
I implore you. I beg you, call the warden. Tell him that there's a man... What was that?
Not now she won't recognize you.
What do you mean?
I mean, that's it. It's all over. Finished.
Oh, no. Not dead.
That's right, brother. He's dead.
Suddenly, my life was empty, and all my plans of triumph were as ashes in my mouth. Hers had been the triumph, not mine. Hers the tragic spectacle, hers the hour upon the stage. Now, in truth, was I really dead? For who now would applaud my artistry? Who would believe my tale or even recognize my face? Only tragedy and death gain recognition. Yes. And therein was my answer. Therein at last would I breach the portals of undying fame, leaving behind me a manuscript setting forth the facts in full detail. I would actually die. The first man in history to die and come to life, and die again since Lazarus. I searched the streets until I found a car with the keys in the ignition lock. I stole it. I drove to the Golden Gate Bridge, for I would not only die twice, I would die twice in the same place and the same way. I drove past the gateman and on.
Hey, wait!
On to the very highest part of the parapet. I would stand while horrified onlookers gazed helplessly. Then, as eager hands reached out to save my life, I would leap. I was dimly conscious of the siren behind me, but paid no heed. I drove faster to my splendid doom. I heard a shot, then another. The car was out of control, swerving, lurching, swerving like a crazy thing. I think for a moment I lost consciousness. And when next I knew what I was doing, I had crawled from the wreckage and was staggering towards the railing of the bridge. And I was being pursued. Even now, at this late hour, some monstrous fate seemed bent on thwarting my design.
Stop. We'll shoot.
No, they would not stop me. I would not be thwarted. I staggered on. Searing pain in my shoulder. I fell. I struggled to my feet again. The railing was almost within my grasp. The shot, that rending, tearing agony of the bullet through my chest. I was on my knees again. But I must. I clawed at the steel railing painfully lifting myself up. For a moment, I balanced, swaying, and then oblivion. I heard their voices coming to me from a long way off, like voices of the dead.
Stand back. What? This guy is Playboy Evans.
The same license number.
Well, I wonder why he ran.
Yeah, it's tough, and he looks like such a harmless guy.
Please, is there no one to believe me? Just one. The lowliest of men, the tiniest of lisping children. Just one. Before this stage is dark. Before I shuffle off this mortal coil. Before I die.
Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, Roma, America's favorite wines. This is Truman Bradley inviting you to try Roma Wines, to learn for yourself why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. It's because only Roma selects from the world's greatest reserves of fine wines to bring you better tasting wines. And now, you and your friends can enjoy delightful Roma wines more often because Roma prices have been reduced as much as 20%. So make a note tonight to stock up on Roma wines tomorrow. Take advantage of Roma's new low prices to enjoy more of Roma's premium quality. Ask for Roma, R-O-M-A, the greatest name in wine and your best buy in good taste.
This is Hume Cronin. It's been a great pleasure appearing for you on Suspense. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I know you'd like to hear about next week's Suspense show when Roma Wines will bring you June Havoc in the story of a girl whose fatal resemblance to a famous movie star leads to murder. I'll see you soon, I hope. Thank you. Good night.
Hume Cronin appeared by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of Living in a Big Way, starring Gene Kelly and Marie McDonald. Tonight's Suspense play was by Irving Moore and Robert Richards from an original story by Robert Ralston. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Miss June Havoc as star of Suspense. Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California.
For the finest in sherries, remember this name. C-R-E-S-T-A, B-L-A-N-C-A. Cresta Blanca. Cresta Blanca. Yes, the famous California sherries of Cresta Blanca are among the great sherries of the world. And Cresta Blanca has created a sherry for every occasion, for every taste. Ask your wine dealer. Discover the ideal Cresta Blanca sherry for you. Shenley's Cresta Blanca Wine Company, Livermore, California.
Tune in again next Thursday, same time, for Suspense. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present
Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Miss Virginia Bruce in Night Comes Riding, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now a glassful would be very pleasant. As Roma Wines bring you Virginia Bruce in a remarkable tale of
Suspense.
It was a Monday. The most ordinary Monday in the world. Except that I'd stolen an extra 5 minutes doze after the alarm went off, and I was feeling just a teeny bit guilty about it. Ed always leaves for the office at 9 sharp, so I can't afford to waste a second in the morning. Well, by the time I had the furnace going, the table laid in the breakfast nook, and the coffee and toast started, it was 7:30. That left me 10 minutes more before Ed would be ready for me to run his bath. 10 precious minutes to myself. I suppose every woman has some little pet vanity of her own. With me, it's my hair. Ed's always trying to make me have it by frightening me this way.
I didn't mean to frighten you.
Well, what are you doing around here anyway?
You don't remember me, do you?
No, I certainly do not.
I picked you up that day you fainted. I just came around to offer my condolences.
Oh, well, thank you.
Here, let me help you with that.
Oh, no, please don't bother.
Oh, it's no bother. Got nothing better to do.
Oh.
See, I'm a member of that growing army known as the unemployed.
Oh, I see.
Where do you want this stuff put?
Please, I wish you wouldn't.
Oh. Very well, I'll be going then. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion.
Oh, your foot.
Well, what about it?
Well, when I dropped the basket, I hadn't realized it.
No, dear lady. I'm afraid this wound goes back a little farther than that.
Oh, I am sorry. Please forgive me.
Oh, it's all right.
But really, I feel terrible. A veteran and no job. And here I've been... There must be something I can do to make up for...
Oh, don't feel that way.
Perhaps, believe me, this isn't charity. Perhaps you'll let me make you some breakfast.
Breakfast? Well,
Well, then, that's settled. Come along. You must be a stranger in these parts.
you might call me that.
What in the world ever brought you to a little out-of-the-way place like Richmond?
Oh, this and that. Anything more you'd like to know?
No. You mustn't think that I... Well, here we are. Just sit down and make yourself comfortable, and I'll have something ready in a jiffy.
I've been rude. I'm sorry. You're terribly nice, Miss Simmons.
Oh, not at all. Tea or coffee, Mr... You know, I've forgotten your name.
Shaw. Duncan Shaw. And, tea.
You know, Mr. Shaw, I've been thinking, and
No, I won't be offended.
Well, it's just they knew he'd died of carbon monoxide poisoning, but there were some wounds, too, on his head, and they couldn't explain them. All this and what happened to poor Roger and Ed being so nervous and irritable. Finally, there was an inquest. I didn't even go to it, but it was all in the papers the next day. You're not eating your breakfast, Ed?
I don't feel hungry.
Oh, all right. Ed?
Yes?
What does an open verdict mean?
Open verdict?
Yes, that's what the coroner's jury said about Roger, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Well, what does it mean?
Well, it just means that they don't know. They don't know how it happened.
You mean whether it was an accident or something else?
Yes.
I don't think it was an accident. Do you, Ed?
I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Who do you think did it?
What do you mean by that?
Just what I said. Who do you think did it?
I don't know. What do you mean? It probably was an accident. Maybe it was suicide. How do I know? Somebody
hit him, Ed.
All right, maybe somebody did. I don't know, and I don't care.
You don't what?
I said I don't know, and I don't know anything about it.
I didn't say anything more. I just watched him as he stormed down the path to the garage. I suppose it was the way I felt about Ed that was the reason for what happened next. I'd always felt that way about Ed in some ways, I guess, but now it was different and worse. That morning, I was taking a basket of old junk out to the tool shed, and it was heavy, and maybe I wasn't looking where I was going, but as I came around the corner of the house, I ran right into someone who grabbed me by the arm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let go of me.
I'm sorry,
What do you mean by cut? He says long hair is unhygienic, and besides, a woman of my age shouldn't be concerned with appearances. I often wonder what he would say if he knew I spent 10 whole minutes every morning just brushing and combing my hair. Just brushing and combing and admiring myself in the mirror like any schoolgirl. Only this morning I didn't. I was a little upset.
Lily!
Yes, dear?
Where's my blue serge suit? I can't find it anywhere.
Oh, Ed, I gave it to the cleaner.
Oh, no.
Well, it did need cleaning so badly. You said so yourself.
I said nothing of the kind.
But you did, Ed. You said...
All right. I'll wear the gray.
You'd better come out and start your breakfast. It's late.
Yes. I'll be right out.
Ed?
Yes?
You know, Roger didn't come home last night.
Oh? Didn't he?
No, and I'm worried.
Well, I don't see why. Half the time he doesn't get home till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, cream, please.
Yes, dear. But he's never stayed out all night before.
Look, Millie, for 2 years I've provided food and shelter for your nephew so he could go to college in this town, and I've never complained. And please don't say it's because of his old man's money either.
You had a quarrel with him last night, didn't you?
Oh, it wasn't a quarrel. I just told him a few things for his own good, that's all.
Well, it was more than that. I heard you. You fought with him.
I didn't fight with him. There was a little scuffle, maybe.
There was blood on the lapel of your suit, too.
All right, there was. Say, what are you driving at, anyway?
Nothing yet. I'm just wondering why Roger didn't come home.
Well, don't worry. He'll show up. Well, I gotta be going.
Well, it's only 8:30.
I've got to walk today. I had trouble with the car last night. Say, that reminds me, Millie. What are all those glass jars doing up on the shelf in the garage?
Oh, my preserving jars.
Well, whatever they are, they certainly don't belong in the garage.
But, Ed, I never start with my preserves until the 15th.
Oh, look, Millie, look. Raleighs are sending a mechanic up the first thing this morning to look over the car. I don't want the garage looking like a cannery. Besides, those things are dangerous up there. Suppose they should fall.
All right.
Put them down in the cellar. Why, up there where they are, those things could be the death of somebody.
By the time I'd washed up the breakfast things and fed Bobby's my pet canary, it was 10 o'clock. Suddenly I remembered those wretched preserving jars. I was just starting on them when I got a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye in the shadows behind me. I spun around, my heart pounding away 10 to the dozen, and then I saw it. It was a hand hanging out of the open window of the car. A very still, white hand. Roger's hand. It was cold when I touched it. Roger was dead. I don't know quite what happened after that. I know I was running away from that awful darkness and out into the sunlight of the yard, and I was screaming, I guess. Then I must have fainted. Because the next thing I knew, there was a little crowd of people standing around, and someone was holding me in his arms, and that was Duncan.
It's all right, Mama.
Oh, he's dead. He's dead.
It's all right, Mrs. Anderson. It's all right now.
Who are you? What?
You don't know me, Mrs. Anderson. My name is Duncan Shaw. You fainted.
The next few weeks were like a nightmare. The local police, and then the state authorities, too. Questioning, looking, snooping.